This is currently your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan, and it's always nice to have a former quarterback to talk some football.
Riley Nelson is a man who played quarterback at Brigham Young University. He's now an analyst on BYU Radio. I spoke with him in English. Here it is. Riley, it's reasonable to think that BYU could climb in the college football playoff rankings. They do by one spot, which is great. After the bye week, who knows? But what's your reaction to BYU being number 14 now?
Tremendous. I think that just the nature of the back-to-back losses were a little bit unfortunate, but I think this is the best possible scenario given the circumstances. They are the third highest ranked two-loss team in the country, which I think shows immense respect behind A&M. And then, of course, Baylor. You can't ever expect, as long as Baylor matches you at two losses, you can't expect to be ranked above someone that you lost to, but Baylor's only one spot in front. So to me, this is best possible scenario. And, the sad thing is that not only with bye weeks, but some of the lesser caliber opponents coming in November, a lot of the ranking is out of your control. I mean, you can still go out and take care of business and win big on Saturday, but you're relying on chaos around you. And we had a lot this last week, and here's hoping that we have more as the season closes out.
Speaking of chaos, to your point about, well, head-to-head should matter. It didn't with Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan up to 6, Michigan State at 7.
Yeah.
So they don't actually care about that, I guess. But through the bye week, hopefully, and then, Georgia Southern. And then how high can BYU climb? USC's sitting there. USC struggled this year. Certainly a name. Do you feel like BYU can get as high as top 10 or inside the top 10 after a bowl game, perhaps?
They're going to need some carnage. I think, they're just going to need some carnage in front of them, because the two-loss, if you look historically where the highest ranked two-loss team has been, unless it's like, an Alabama, highest two-loss at the end of the regular season. Once you start getting into conference championship weekend and some of those two-loss teams get a little bit more leniency, but the highest ranked two-loss team, especially that is not, I'll just call out the bias, that doesn't play in the SEC, is typically reaches its maximum somewhere around 10. So I think that's best case scenario for BYU. And I think they can get there, because I think they'll take care of business. And even though USC is struggling, it's still a good brand to kind of put a capstone on a great season. And all best BYU can hope for is a lot of chaos around them.
And you hope BYU gets a great matchup in the bowl game to get a shot at that. Like, UTSA, if they're undefeated, it seems like they would go to the New Orleans Bowl, perhaps, because Cincinnati would occupy that group of five spot. But it's just tough, because for as good as this season has been, anybody in the Independence Bowl, it just doesn't sound that great to me. How do you feel about it, given how well the season's gone?
I would just counter that by saying it wasn't too long ago, Jarom, that people were questioning whether or not this team even had the juice to make it to a bowl game. So happiness is like, that was only a few short months ago. And it wasn't a ton. I think most everybody, but I remember coming to the season, everyone's like, man, if they can get to 8 wins, that'll be great. But, I really think this team's going to end up being around 6 or 7. And here they are now, ranked 14th in the country and on their way for double-digit regular season wins. And happiness is a function of expectation. And I don't think fans should be disappointed, because you also accepted the fact coming into the season, BYU was an independent, and we're all very familiar that as an independent, you have to lock in your postseason fate and hope that a lot of things outside your control, a lot of things happen circumstantially to change that locked-in bowl bid. So I think the Conference USA, heck, we learned last year, right, going out with a team that we thought was New Year's Six caliber. And granted, we all remember the dynamics around Coastal Carolina, but these smaller, lesser-known conferences, they still play ball and they still have athletes. So I still have faith that if BYU does end up in the Independence Bowl, it will be a good matchup and another opportunity to show the caliber of team that they are. Even though I will not be disappointed if that happens, but I, like every other fan out there, am holding out hope for something maybe a little bit grander.
Yeah, if you rank 12th, it's just hard to get up from Marshall. You know what I'm saying? But it could be fun. And listen, the fact that BYU has not accepted the Independence Bowl quite yet tells me a little something. Perhaps there's another option. We didn't see, a couple of different bowl matchups in 15 and 18 that preseason we thought, well, BYU's going to this game. No, they didn't. They went to a different game. So we'll see who the matchup is. Ultimately, it's about the matchup, not the bowl, I think. But anyway, New Year's 6, we've been talking about it. Spencer is tracking, we're all hoping that there's a shot here. Matchup, sliding up and down. I'm like, once you lose 2, you're done. I just don't feel like BYU has a shot at the New Year's 6. Do you feel like BYU has a shot at the New Year's 6 still?
I agree with you. I don't know, Jeremy, have you done the homework? How many 2-loss teams have made New Year's 6 perennially?
That aren't a Power 5? I would guess 0. I don't know that, but I would guess 0.
Hey, I do want to point out, though, I don't know
Group
if
of 5 auto.
some of the fans saw it.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, but I was going to say, I don't know if you noticed this on game day. And by the way, I don't know, I'm becoming more and more of a Big Noon Kickoff guy. But anyway, on game day, they showed the highest ranked group of 5 teams and did not include BYU. So I thought that was a nice little nod to what everybody thinks of BYU's status, right? Sure. So, but you look at those, and it is true. They're 1 loss. Oftentimes, if they're 2 loss, they finish the regular season 1 loss. And I'm talking even P5s here. They finished the regular season 1 loss. They went to a conference championship game and lost out because, the team they lost to went to the playoff or something like
Virginia
that. So
did that.
Yeah, there you go. So it's an uphill climb, but we all need hope to keep us alive, right? I think that was a song lyric or something. So I'm still holding on to it, but really, and the story's repeated itself from last year. Is you can only play the schedule in front of you, and in the case of postseason, you can only play in the bowl that you're invited to. So BYU, the one thing I'll say is that I have confidence in this team and its myriad of playmakers to put on a show no matter where they end up in the postseason. I'm hoping it's on a big stage on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, but if it ends up being December 18th in Shreveport, it will still be a show for the fans to behold.
Yes, so be it. And it may be our last look at Tyler Allgeier. Who knows? I'm of the opinion that he's probably going to bounce. It feels that way, at least. If Tyler Allgeier leaves, does BYU need to get a Tyson Williams type from the transfer portal, or do they put their chips on perhaps Lopini Katoa coming back in a Jackson McChesney, Hinckley, Ropati trio?
Both. Can I say both?
Yeah.
I think you can never have enough running back depth, especially with a coordinator in Aaron Roderick, who has proven that he can use talented players in so many different ways: screens, hand and off, zone runs, man runs, power runs, outside runs, right? So give that guy a full complement of running backs with varied skill sets, and things can be really scary. Here's the one thing I'll say. Well, I do think they have to go to the transfer portal. And obviously this year with the Nakuas and some of the other additions that they've made, this staff has proven that they're very capable of going out and getting, to your point, Tyson Williams, right? They're very capable of going out and getting guys who come in and can be immediate impact players. But I just point to Jaron Hall. And nobody was clamoring for them to go out in the transfer portal for a quarterback, but there was questions about whether the guys that they had in the room last year would be able to, fill the big shoes left behind by Zach Wilson. And I'll say that maybe it hasn't looked the same, but boy, the result has been the same, if not, and arguably more impressive from the quarterback position, what Jaron Hall's been able to do when a lot of people thought coming in that he would be good, but not to that caliber of Zach. And he's definitely challenging that and going play for play and production for production with him. So I wouldn't sell the existing guys short, but I would still go out and do my best in the transfer portal, simply because you can never have enough depth or never have enough weapons.
If you can sign a Kingsley, you can sign anybody, it feels like, right? And when you have a 5-star corner visiting, last Saturday, anything is possible, it feels like, with the momentum BYU's built up. And it's interesting. I've thought about this too, Riley. Last year's team versus this year's team. This is fun for us. The team doesn't care to think about it, maybe. Maybe they do. I don't know. But the fact that if Zach Wilson is on this team this year, I'm not sure BYU's much better than they are now. Maybe a game. I still think BYU loses once somewhere, but maybe they lose twice. Jaron Hall's performance has been incredible, and now BYU continues to build towards the Big 12, and next year, I feel like there's this influx of talent, transfers coming in. The Nakuas sort of started this, it feels like, and now BYU's rolling right now. Like, the mojo around the program is so good. They're going to be preseason top 25 next year, we'd think, if things continue to the end of the year. It's a good time to be a Coug, man.
It most definitely is. And to your point, Jarom, I agree. Like, how does this team win games? And they take care of the football. They don't commit dumb plays, self-defeating penalties. They win the turnover margin, and they play all 4 quarters, right? And the great thing about that, you talk about this BYU program, that is a solid foundational program. So whether you have a Zach Hall or a Zach Wilson or a Jaron Hall behind center, you may see a little bit different in style in the way that it gets done, but the end result ends up being the same. I know many fans have pointed this out, is like, none of those fumbles in the Boise State game that were so detrimental came from the quarterback position. So whether, it was Zach handing it off or Jaron handed it off, and that's not an indictment on anybody who made those mistakes, but it is just to the point that the program's in a position to replace talent, to reload. And here's the biggest thing that's got me excited. Preseason and the schedule that's for next year, but as happy as I have been about the Big 12 announcement, what I have not been super excited for is what I have felt is an inevitability of the same thing that happened to Utah and TCU when they hopped a decade ago, is you come in and it takes you 3, 4, 5 seasons to really kind of find your way. I don't want to be too optimistic about this, but I feel like with the state of the program right now, BYU may experience some of that, but not to the same degree. I think they should be able to step into the Big 12 and compete for a division and be at the top of that conference and not have to spend 3 to 4 years, building the recruiting base and figuring out how to play a P5 schedule before they are competing for division and playing in conference championship games. So that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about the state of the program, is what happens when they do get into the Big 12 to be able to hit the ground running.
Agreed. I made that, the counter argument of, hey, it took Utah was 5-7 2 of the first 3 years, to Spencer, and he said, well, isn't BYU playing tougher schedules than they did? That's exactly right. And to your point, BYU is way better prepared than they were to go into the Big 12. BYU's been playing tougher schedules. Obviously, being independent, you can play more than 3 or 4. No non-Power 5 is playing 4 Power 5s. But as an independent, BYU is able to do that. And then the other thing I want to bring up is, in talking to Kalani Stockey prepping for the broadcast last week on Friday, I said, when you first started here to now, what kind of depth, how much depth do you need to go into the Big 12? And he said, we've got to be 2 or 3 deep. We really do. And if they do the line change thing on defense a lot, yeah, they got to do that. So I'm like you. I feel like BYU is better prepared to compete right away. That doesn't mean BYU is not going to have a season where they don't go to a bowl game one time because, hey, it's tough and it's 5-7 and the ball doesn't bounce your way and you don't turn it over, or you do turn it over more than you did in a couple games. But it's exciting because when you're getting enough receiver depth to sustain multiple hamstring injuries to the Nakuas, and now Neil Pau's hurt, and you're still okay, and you can bring in a lineman like Kingsley Suamataia,
knee sprain,
right? Now I'm like, oh, okay, BYU can go in and be 8-5, and sometimes be maybe 10-3 and compete, which is better than I thought they could. So that's super exciting. And you don't play Utah, and you can hang on that for a couple years.
Yeah. Hey, here's the only thing I'd add to that is, like, as optimistic as I am, and as much as they hit the ground running, keep in mind, like, who would have ever thought Clemson would have had a trouble rebuilding and building up the depth necessary to maintain a high standard of excellence? And here they sit, barely above 500, as we're more than 3/4 of the way through the season. You would have never thought. I mean, it literally was Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, as far as getting their pick of recruits, unlimited resources, all those things. And even those teams, those programs have experienced ebbs and flows. So BYU will not be without its ebbs and flows, but it's just, I guess what I'm saying to your point is, you can have a season where maybe you miss a bowl game, but still belong. And it's because of an unfortunate injury or things like. What can be frustrating is when you find yourself in, like, and not to bash on a future Pac-12 friend or Pac-12 Big 12 member, but, like, what's frustrating is when you get yourself in a position like Kansas, where it's like, you guys, like, you're P5 in name only. The program is a joke, and you're not putting out the caliber.
They make it up in basketball.
Put out. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which is another story. We're talking all about this football. I can't wait to watch you guys really dig into the exciting future that it holds for Big 12 basketball. But anyway, you know what I'm saying is that the results may vary from schedule to schedule. The biggest thing for me is feeling like you belong, looking out there, the guys getting on the bus, the play on the field, the lining up across the ball from these blue blood programs and saying BYU belongs. You may not win every game when you belong, but you're competitive and you can feel it. That to me is, I think we should all just be tickled pink that the programs, if they're not there now, they're right on the cusp of it and should be there soon the way this thing is trending.
Amen. The way recruiting's going, the way the program's looking and feeling off the field as well, just big time in addition to what we've seen this season. Riley, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the bye week. It's a bye week for the broadcasters too. So enjoy an open weekend, then we'll get after it next week.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I find a local game to go attend in person or if I just spend 10 hours on the couch. But
You're just
I'll
in
get
the
my
stands,
fix either
just
way.
talking to yourself. Thanks, Riley.
You enjoy it too, Jarom. We'll talk to you later. Yep.